Hi, my name is Donna Curtin. Welcome to Breaking Weight Loss Barriers, where we break weight loss barriers and make weight loss dreams come true. Today is Saturday, July 4th, 2020, and it is time to reveal whether I lost or gained weight. Well, let me start by saying that the 9 pounds that I lost last Saturday, I kept the pounds off. And for this week, I lost zero point 0.2 ounces. That was a great accomplishment. So, this is what I did during the week. I ate Sunday and Monday, and then I did a water fast on Tuesday, Wednesday, and 15 and a half hours on Thursday, of which on Thursday I had an eating window of 3:30 to 6 p.m. Then I resumed fasting until Friday, 6 p.m. On Friday, I had an eating window from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then I resumed fasting up until today. As a result, all that I did throughout the week, I was able to maintain previous weight loss and increase more weight loss. Now, the challenge this week is no different from the previous week. The goal this week is to balance eating and fasting to increase weight loss. Please join me on next Saturday to see if I lose or gain weight. Thank you for sharing your day with me on Saturday's Weigh In. Now, let's talk about obesity. Today's topic is obesity is not your fault. As mentioned in part one of Mental Distress Hinders Obesity, though the socially accepted popular North American view here in the United States is that obesity is due to the individual's lack of self control and self discipline, and that the resolve to obesity resides within the individual, the highlight for today is that obesity is not your fault. There are many facets that contribute to the development of obesity. According to MayoClinic.org, there are 13 causes to obesity that can be traced to medical causes, inactivity, unhealthy diet and eating habits, genetics, family, lifestyle, medications, social and economic issues, age, pregnancy, quitting smoking, or lack of sleep. For me, from personal experience throughout my youth, the internalization of weight based shame, obesity discrimination, which repressed my ideas, wishes, and talents, being ostracized from my peers because of their weight based attitude towards obese individuals, all led to mental and emotional distress, which then led to emotional eating. That is, I ate to soothe the feelings of unfulfilled desires and to comfort myself from the pain of feeling inferior to slender people due to poor body image. Sigmund Freud, who was the founder of psychoanalysis, impacted my life ever since I was a teenager. At that time in my life, he was one of my greatest mentors, through books, of course, who taught me that in examining childhood experiences, I can try to explore the contributors to the development of obesity. In my reflection of my childhood, I sought to find out what contributed to my chronic obesity. Well, I was birthed into the world as an overweight baby who lived in a family lifestyle that supported obesity. Therefore, my poor dietary practices and sedentary lifestyle led to childhood obesity. And then in early adulthood, I progressed to becoming a morbidly obese adult. My assessment of my upbringing revealed that I was trained through the family's lifestyle from infancy to early adulthood within a way of life that supported obesity. And that assessment resolved my false belief that obesity was my fault. Someone can make the argument that, well, you are an adult now, so you are responsible for your current state of obesity, and that the resolve to obesity resides within you. No, it does not reside with me. Just as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, to be successful at weight loss and weight loss maintenance, it takes having mentors in your life to teach you how to overcome obstacles that are contributors to the development of obesity. You already are familiar with my first mentor, Sigmund Freud, who taught me that the answer to my obesity issues can be found in the exploration of my childhood. My next mentor gave more clarity on how childhood practices affect obesity intervention in adulthood. In the book, J.B. Watson, the founder of behavioralism, a biography by David Cohen, best interpreted Freudian's view when J.B. Watson said, "We are left with all kinds of instincts and habits from youth, and we fail to outgrow them properly. They pop up and interfere with the mature flow of adult life." So, the psychological effects of childhood obesity hinder obesity intervention during adulthood if you did not outgrow childhood influences that contributed to the development of obesity. J.B. Watson further gave me a resolve to disconnecting from mental and behavioral practices that supported obesity when he said, "What can be conditioned can be unconditioned." He stated that if you study yourself, you will be able to identify your fears. Once these are identified, they can be cured. Having hacked off one's infantile carryover, one would be a freer person. Watson also stated that by observation rather than by introspection, you could know yourself. So, though Freud and Watson differed in their approaches in resolving matters, I found it necessary to incorporate Freud's approach to resolve the psychological effects of childhood obesity and to incorporate Watson's approach to focus on resolving current problems and behavior with an attempt to remove behaviors that hinder obesity intervention. Also in the book, J.B. Watson, the founder of behaviorism, a biography by David Cohen, J.B. Watson argued that instead of contributing a condition to the patient, one should try and describe his condition in terms of the inadequacy of responses, of wrong responses, and of the complete lack of responses to the object and situation in the daily life of the patient. That many of the so-called symptoms of so-called mental disease were conditioned reflexes in which the conditioning was essentially inappropriate. From the moment that I read this passage in the book, I became my first weight loss patient and I began weight loss self-treatment. I created a distinction between my personality and my obese body image. And I saw that there were two aspects that I must work on to get out of the predicament of living a lifestyle that supports obesity, which relates to first, disconnecting from the childhood mental and behavioral practices carried over into adulthood that interferes with obesity intervention. And the second aspect that I saw that I must work on is to learn and practice a lifestyle that builds and sustains self-confidence and that yields favorable behavioral practices that will bring about a sustainable, healthy weight. So, first, instead of blaming myself for my own development of my state of obesity, I accepted the truth that the family lifestyle that I was raised up within trained me to live a lifestyle that supports obesity, and that to resolve obesity permanently, I must release myself from my childhood training that supports obesity, such as the mental training that contributed to my development of low self-esteem, inferiority complexes, and poor body image. I had to release the mental pain and anguish from coping with weight-based discrimination against me within the United States society, and more specifically, from within my own family. In my youth, my mind was impacted with many weight-based stereotypes as early as 8 years old. And at that age is when I began to realize that I was ill-treated due to my body image. At 8 years old, There were several weight-based stigmas that were told to me that stayed in my mind that contributed to low self-esteem and inferiority complexes. The one that stood out the most in my mind was when I was 8 years old. At that age, I failed to stick to a diet to lose weight after being put on my first weight loss diet. I was told that I failed because I am a weak individual. All throughout my youth, I felt that the only way that I will be loved and accepted by my family was if I became a slender person. So I vowed to myself that I will become that slender person that everyone wanted me to become so that I can be socially acceptable. That was my driving force that was behind my desire to lose weight during my youth, straight through to early adulthood. I had to prove that I was not weak. However, with every failed diet, I became convinced that I was a weak individual. The stigma stayed with me from my youth straight throughout much of my early adulthood. So, as an adult, every time I set out to go on a diet, the first thought that entered my mind before I even got started on the weight loss diet was this self-defeating thought: you will never accomplish it because you're weak. It took decades to get this thought out of my mind. The idea of being a weak individual affected me greatly, that I worked hard to disprove the idea within myself, and that I vowed to myself that I will change everything that I hate about myself, that I carried over from childhood into adulthood. I ditched inferiority complexes, internalization of weight-based stereotypes. I released the fear of being discriminated against based upon weight-based stereotypes. The psychological effects of childhood obesity carryover interferes with adult life. And for me, the hardest thing that I overcame was childhood conditioning. The game changer was sticking to the belief that what can be conditioned can be unconditioned. That set the stage for greater change. Currently, as an obese individual, I still face obesity discrimination, particularly in healthcare facilities. Weight-based discrimination is prevalent within the United States. In an article I read titled "Developments in the Law of Obesity Discrimination Protection," obese people are vulnerable to weight discrimination in many domains of daily living, including education institutions, healthcare facilities, public accommodations, and the workplace. And in the vast majority of the United States, body weight is not a protected class, and weight-based employment discrimination does not provide a basis for a legal claim. Being a target of weight discrimination increases risk for negative outcomes, including depression, social rejection, anxiety, avoidance of health care, and unhealthy behaviors that can reinforce weight gain and impair weight loss. With all of the unjust treatment that an obese person has to cope with within their daily lives from childhood to adulthood, then deal with the anxiety of trying to change negative mental and behavioral practices that keeps them in a state of obesity, trying to resolve childhood conflicts which they have not outgrown, as they try to work on current problems and behaviors with an attempt to remove behaviors that hinder obesity intervention. And then to top it off, they are dealing with the fact that they themselves cannot get a grip on dieting to lose weight and keep it off. No wonder many obese people believe that obesity is their fault. But it's not your fault. All the mentally distressing issues that I have mentioned hinders weight loss, because each of these obesity-related issues contributes to binge eating, which in turn causes weight gain, thereby hinders the ability to lose weight and keep it off. So the focus here is to break away from mental bondage of the influences that contribute to the development of obesity by trying to resolve childhood carryovers that interfere with adult life and to try to work on current problems and behaviors with an attempt to remove behaviors that hinder obesity intervention and to acknowledge that there are many contributors to the development of obesity. Therefore, obesity is not your fault. We are now at the end of this session. Thank you for watching and listening to this video. I hope my story encourages you towards the fulfillment of your weight loss transformation. And if this program is inspirational to you, please return for more inspiration. And remember that what we do today will pay off tomorrow. May we all achieve our weight loss dreams together. So be it.